Shepherds Between Worlds, a short Dvar Torah for Parashat Vayeshev. Previously, Yaakov's stories turn sheep from background players in the biblical narrative into a main character. Yaakov's life revolves around sheep from the moment he leaves the land of Canaan, and he understands that sheep represent a link between earth and heaven, a rung on the ladder upon which angels of God can ascend and descend. To Yaakov's chagrin, he reads in Rashi that the sheep, which he invested in to strengthen the connection between earth and heaven, can also serve as a good excuse for mediocrity. He hears himself saying to Vayeshev, "I am neither earth nor heaven. I am parv." This is not the impression Yaakov wants to create, so he embarks on several actions to emphasize his heavenliness, the struggle that leads to the name Israel, his earthliness, buying land in Shem, and the connection between them, erecting a pillar. But connecting heavens and earth is no simple matter. In the struggle, Yaakov is hurt in the thigh. Dinah's daughter goes out to see the local girls, Bnot Haaretz, and is raped. And the people of Israel, Bnei Israel, his sons, learn an important lesson. It's dangerous to be a ladder. Therefore, the children of Israel shall not eat Gid Anasheh, to remind us of this story whenever we want to stray slightly from the safe space afforded by sheep. So far, I've repeated things that we've seen. From here on, I'd like to expand on a point mentioned in passing. As we've said, Yaakov's sons are less connected to linking earth and heaven. They're shepherds, uninterested in leaving that protected sphere, whether that decision was made when they stopped eating Gid Anasheh in memory of the story of the struggle, or whether it was a decision made following Dinah's episode. They continue being shepherds, but not all of them. Yosef, Daddy's beloved son, the one whose life, according to Rashi, will be very similar to Yaakov's, behaves a little differently. How differently? Well, let's start with the fact that when his brothers are pasturing the flocks, he pastures his brothers. Do you think that's not pshat? You're right. Most commentators agree that ro'eh et echav batzon is equivalent to ro'eh im echav batzon, with or watching them. But I think semantics matter. Yosef also has dreams, which itself is dangerous business. All the idea about connecting heaven and earth began because his father had a dream, which themselves represent a kind of link between heaven and earth. The content of the dream is no less frightening and requires understanding. The dream takes place in the field, that very soil that was cursed after Adam's sin. But we, says Yosef, not I, we are on the wrong side of history. We are agriculturists like Cain, our alumot. We're not shepherds like Hevel. And then he continues, my sheaf, my aluma, stands up straight, meaning they aspire heavenward. And your sheaves gather around it and bow down to it. You align with the concept of connection, but that's not all. In the second dream, the heavenly bodies, the sun, moon, and stars, bow down to Yosef, meaning one, they align with Yosef's conception. According to this interpretation, the bowing of the heavenly bodies is the same as the bowing of the sheaves. Or two, they lower themselves down towards the material world. According to this interpretation, the bowing in the second dream is opposed to the standing of Yosef's sheaf, meaning one goes up, the other comes down. We're trying to connect. Yaakov, for his part, on the one hand, shamar et Dvar, according to Rashi, waits to see when it'll happen. But on the other hand, scolds Yosef and tries to connect him to his shepherding brothers. It'll be very difficult to connect the ladder to heavens and earth if one can't connect the ladder to the people themselves. Therefore, Yaakov asks Yosef to do two things: inquire after the welfare of the flock and the welfare of his brother. Yosef tries but struggles. He looks for his brothers and wants to know where they're pasturing, but not the flock. And the brothers, true to their ideology, take no risks. They will slaughter a goat kid whose blood will symbolize to their mourning father the slaughter of the dream of the ladder. Tarof Toraf Yosef. What lessons will the representatives of these approaches learn throughout this Torah portion? Yehuda will be taught by the flock a lesson in taking responsibility. He meets Tamar while going up to shear his sheep, and when he tries to send her a goat kid from the flock, he discovers that there are some things a goat kid cannot solve. She's no longer there. With this insight, he will exit his comfort zone and stand before the ruler of Egypt with much reference made to what occurs above and below, guiding themes of descent and ascent in next week's parasha. Yosef will understand that there are implications to ignoring the flock. When a goat is slaughtered, good people get sold into slavery. Consequently, he will succeed in prioritizing his brother's divine qualities, in arranging for their descent to Egypt, and ensure they settle in the land of Goshen and not among the Egyptians. These two approaches together will lead to the choosing of Moshe, the shepherd, and the most significant connection between earth and heaven of all, the revelation at Mount Sinai and the receiving of the Torah. In memory of my beloved and heroic student Amichai Shimon ben Ishai and Bat Rubin Hashem Yikom Damo, I am Dovi Holtz, one who loves Tanakh.